There was a few other heavy hitters in there, and I believe there was a mention that that there is no business model for the modern law firm, and that's I was really intrigued by that because that statement itself is like very divergent, very contrarian. So first, can you explain that, and how is your business model shifting as the industry evolves?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was one of my co-authors that wrote the book. There's several of them, and a lot of them are business coaches, lawyers who are business coaches who all have, believe all of them have seven, and now some are working on eight-figure firms. They have employees that are happy and everything. I think that statement, in my mind, refers to the fact that things are changing so quickly in marketing, in employment, in our generations changing. Like you have baby boomers, Gen X, millennial, but even those generations are changing quickly. I mean, the identification of his and her and all that, that's a quick change. And it's almost like exponential. Change is happening faster and faster. So to have like a playbook for the modern law firm is very difficult. Having said that, though, there are systems that will never change unless we are replaced all by artificial intelligence, which is possible, and robots. But business principles, no matter how you slice them up, or no matter what way you phrase them, or what coaching program you have, or whether it's an MBA or not, still deals with the common elements of a business, which is tech, which is process and systems, which is having a vision, putting the right people in the right seats. There's a book called Traction by Gino Wickoff. It's an EOS system that we implement in our office. Data, having data to make decisions. Those things never change. You can have people that are not coming to work anymore and are on Zoom. Well, you better find a way to engage them via Zoom, which in my mind is still difficult, but you better find a way to do it. That's an evolution, meaning there's no modern blueprint system, but because, you can't go so quick, right? When you have employees that used to work in your office, there were certain ways to have meeting structures, blah, blah, blah. Now all of a sudden Zoom, but it seems I can make 10,000 issues that come up, but the business principle is still the same. Your team member wants to feel appreciated, right, Chris? Like your team did a good job with this question. Probably be a good idea for you to say, hey, the guest said that you guys did a great job. And he actually spent time preparing because he's like, man, he put time in this, so I'll put time into preparing for the show.
I think so much of that, and we're a traction agency as well, so we follow a lot of those same principles, and we have a chairman that helps us. And I think, and I just read The Motive by Patrick Lencioni, and it was talking about what's the CEO's job? What's the CEO's job? And it's like to be a servant leader, like take care of your people, to grow your people in quantity and quality. And I was kind of blown away because at the beginning of the book, it was just kind of like, like tactical. Maybe the CEO was micromanaging a little bit, but I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Like your people have to know that they're rewarded and that you care about them and their interests. And I think that makes them want to work harder for you and kind of go to war, so to speak, with you.
I actually would extend it a little further. I took, let's just say I don't take the bonuses I took before. And we went through a hard patch through COVID, and we're still trying to recover post-COVID in our area of law. But I would, and that's, you have to pivot when you pivot. But I would tell you that I think I would take it one step further and say it's the purpose of it is not to get your team member or your employee to work harder for you, but ultimately to work harder for themselves, even if that means separation. And it's almost like a Buddhist thing, which is kind of like, I want you to be as great as you can be. I'd like you to stay here, especially if it's a rock star, but I'm willing to let you go with love and affection, and what I mean willing to let you go is obviously not keeping the employee here, but in your mind, my mind as the owner, willing to let them go, meaning I'm at peace with them leaving, even if they're going to compete with me, because all I'm here to do is to really get other people's lives, in addition to my own, to be enhanced and to grow. And those are recent revelations to me, but they're revelations that are important. And I feel I've done it subconsciously with lawyers that have been here because they, I just gave I gave a speech for a lawyer who used to work for me for 3 years. Most of my guys have been here 5, 8, 10, 12 years, but there's some guys and girls and gals, women and men, who want to open their own practice. And no matter what you do, they just need the itch. Although I will tell you, if you have a good system in place, they'll stay longer, and they might choose to stay because they love the system you're running. And that, as you know, by being a traction guy, is that if you have a gal or a guy or a woman or a man lawyer who's in here and they burning to open their own thing because you're not doing it the way they expect, versus if you take their ideas, be open, transparent, understand, show them the clarity and vision of where you're headed and where they play into that situation, then they may stay. And if they leave, this is the hard thing. You got to be authentic about it. So you can't, because they'll smell through the bullshit. So it's either you authentically care for them or you don't. So I would just say, I feel like I'll tell you another thing. I'm going to give a shout out to this guy, Stu Wolf, who's my traction coach. We were going through some hard times and I was like, I can't afford your fee to come down here. This was 6 months ago. I probably could have afforded it. And he probably understood that, but psychologically, I felt like, and he's like, we've been on this journey together with you and your leadership team. Don't worry about it. Pay my fare in my hotel. You'll get me back. And it was a couple more times until we started getting back on our feet a little bit, which taught me that that's what traction is about. It's actually pretty emotional because that aspect of my coach being willing to put himself out there is how I would like to be for all my employees. And it's tough because criminal is a low margin business, which means that I'll still do criminal, pay the bills, but my PI is definitely something I'm really focused on, which is tough when you're in your 50s. Most people are ready to wind it down after 30 years of practice. Even if I'm not practicing anymore, I got to build it up and ramp it up for my employees.